right here in the middle of basketball season, football recruiting heating up.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And back into Locked On Bama, Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, Alabama had a huge weekend in the football recruiting world. And there was actually a surprise visitor there. Demarcus Riddick made it to campus, did he not? The linebacker from Chilton County.
Yeah, that's what Andrew Bone and Bama Insider reported. Very exciting because, Alabama hadn't offered Riddick early, mostly, if not all, because he had never attended camp at Alabama. That's a big thing for the Crimson Tide and Nick Saban. They like the hands-on evaluation. There's not a whole lot of kids they're just going to take based on their high school tape or even an in-person evaluation. They like working with kids at camp and seeing who's coachable, all that stuff. And so Riddick didn't get offered by Alabama early. He was offered by Georgia very early. I believe he had camped there. Anyway, the point is Alabama is now very eager to get Riddick on campus and in camp, and he seems really open to Alabama. And I'm a big Riddick fan for sure. I think he's got a chance to be a great player. It was interesting that he'd be on campus. It was an unbelievable group, lots of highly recruited kids at the junior day on Saturday. Including Dylan Stewart, who's the #1 prospect in the entire country. He's a pass rusher from the Washington, D.C. area. He was there, and lots of the top prospects in the state in multiple classes, not just 24 guys, but 25 and even 26 guys. So it was a huge recruiting weekend. There's going to be one more junior day. But really what Alabama likes to do is get their high-profile prospects, the guys that are near the top of their board. They like to get them in and actually attend to practice, maybe sit in meetings. It's just all about developing relationships. And here's an interesting thing, like one last thing I'll say before we move on to the next question and segment is Alabama believes, because of all Alabama has to offer in terms of facilities and academics, and we all know the high-profile nature of the program, they believe that if they get a kid on campus more than 3 or 4 times, that they got it. I mean, it's literally, and they track all this, Luke. I mean, they've tracked this over time. Now, that's not a 100% formula. I'm not saying they get them 100% of the time. It's probably not even close to 100%. But they feel like if they get a kid on campus multiple times, they got a great shot, no matter who else is recruiting them. So it's about getting them in for the junior days, getting them to come to a spring practice, getting them to come to an actual game, whether it's last fall or this fall, and then the official visit. If you get all of that, we got a great shot at the player.
Another guy that was there this weekend, 5-star receiver Ryan Wingo. This is somebody that apparently a lot of people believe will end up Tennessee right now. I mean, at least that's where the crystal balls are trending, but it doesn't matter right at this moment, just like it doesn't matter necessarily that Demarcus Riddick is committed to Georgia, because a lot of people think he may flip to Alabama or even maybe Auburn. But Ryan Wingo, fantastic wide receiver. A lot of people think he's the best wide receiver in this class. Did you hear anything about his visit? It sounded like he had a great time.
Yeah, it was a good that's not the first time he's been to Alabama either, which is good. So he's a guy that's definitely going to be among Alabama's top targets. One interesting thing about Wingo, a good test for Tommy Rees. I think Wingo is going to be a Tommy Rees guy, meaning, Alabama's offensive coordinator haven't been too involved in recruiting the last few coordinators. I mean, starting with Lane, it has nothing to do with Bill O'Brien or anything else. It's just that, you have 10 assistants and you can only have like 8 on the road at one time. So there's always one assistant who's not traveling. Most of the time you want to make that guy a coordinator because they're so busy with other tasks. but some offensive coordinators are really, really good recruiters, and you want them to be more active in recruiting. And Tommy Rees apparently a guy like that. So he's going to have a lot of recruiting responsibility that like Bill O'Brien didn't have. Lane Kiffin didn't recruit much when he was at Alabama. So again, it's not a Bill O'Brien thing. It's depends on who it is, but Tommy's going to be an active recruiter, and Wingo's one of his guys.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to get some kind of some new good fresh receivers in here.
Right.
I certainly do. I mean, I know we brought in some receivers for this particular class. We got Ryan Williams up in a few years, but man, it feels like we've been lacking that dynamic playmaker. Maybe Malik Benson will be that guy this year. And then one other guy I want to bring up is Antonio Coleman from Saraland. I mean, that makes 3 dudes from Saraland who I think are all in the same class. KJ Lacey and now Ryan Williams. KJ Lacey, of course, being the quarterback, Ryan Williams being the best wide receiver maybe in any class. I mean, he's just phenomenal and already committed to Alabama. And then Antonio Coleman, no relation to the Antonio Coleman who played at Auburn, who I think probably would have been at Alabama just about any other year, but we had pretty poor leadership at the time.
Yeah, this Antonio Coleman's not related to the Auburn Antonio. I've known him for a while because, hey, all I got to say is this. I mean, I think Luke's seen Saraland play, and Saraland just won the 6A state championship, and they're only getting better. I mean, Saraland state champs with an ascending program, if you can believe it or not. So when I tell you that, and then I say Antonio Coleman was a 9th grade starter as a defensive tackle, I think that's pretty much all you need to hear to say, oh, this guy must be pretty good. And he is. He's got to get a little bigger, but as with every 10th grade lineman alive, probably about 6'2", 265 right now. But it's reasonable to expect he's going to be in the 290 range by his senior season at Saraland. Real disruptive, good athlete, a defensive tackle that can sort of run down backs from, at the line of scrimmage from behind. So it's exciting that Alabama offered him. It's not his first SEC offer. He's had a few. Crazy that Saraland has 3. If you want to count KJ Lacey as offered, and we can, that's 3 players from Saraland in the same 10th grade class Alabama's offered. And I'm not going to be surprised, Luke, if there's a couple more from that group. I would look at a wide receiver, C.D. Gill, who's going to get a lot of looks. The running back, Sante McWilliams, he's going to be a Jamir Gibbs type. But, hey, Jamir Gibbs probably going to be the second running back taken in this draft. I think Sante McWilliams is a lot like him. He's got multiple Power 5 offers, too, as a 10th grade running back. And, again, Gill at wide receiver, that's one that just jumps out to me. He doesn't get the attention Ryan Williams gets, and Ryan catches a lot of balls. But that means Gill gets a lot of one-on-ones over there, and he's really good. So, man, that Saraland team is absolutely loaded. They also have, by the way, seniors, guys in the 24 class, a linebacker who has offers from, I think, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. And he's a guy we haven't really heard associated with Alabama yet. His name's Jamison Curtis. Again, 2014 linebacker from Saraland, a year older than Ryan Williams and KJ in that group. But 3 SEC offers, 6'1", 210 linebacker.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Jamir Gibbs. We're going to talk about NFL Combine stuff here in the second segment. But right now I need to tell everybody about Built Bar. Go to Built.com. Check out these Built Bars. Go get you some on order. You can get them from Amazon. You can get them from Walmart if you just want to go up the street, or Sam's Club if you want to get them in bulk. Or if you're working out at Lifetime, you can go get one there because I do it all the time. They got flavors like churro, coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, all these wonderful raspberry, and they just come out with new flavors all the time, and they send them to Jimmy and me, and we just eat them like they have the antidote in them. I mean, they're fantastic. You need to go try them. Built Bars. These things are delicious, nutritious. You cannot beat them. You just got to try them. They will help you lose weight for only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can't beat that. So if you're trying to bulk up a little bit in terms of the muscle and slim down a little bit in terms of the chunkiness, I'm not sure if that is the technical term, but then you probably want a Built Bar. You will love these things. You can get them Walmart, Sam's Club, Amazon, Lifetime, Built.com. Just go to Built.com, check out all the various flavors, and then head on over to your local Walmart and go buy you a bushel full of them. Also, go check out Locked On SEC, not Locked On SEC. You can check them out, but go check out Locked On Basketball too, Locked On College Basketball too. It's tournament time, and they're going to be talking about the tournament, so go check out Locked On College Basketball. NFL Combine, Jimmy. I saw something that – I'll start out with something positive. Jamir Gibbs sounds like he kicked butt. I've seen him – most projections have him going late in the first round to somewhere like a Philadelphia, which I think would be amazing if he were to team up with – God, can you imagine Jamir Gibbs in the backfield with Jalen Hurts, and you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? I mean – you don't stop that. I mean, you could say, well, how do you stop that? Well, the answer is you don't.
Yeah, that would be a great – and I also wonder if there's some subliminal thing, because a great comp with Jamir Gibbs is Darren Sproles, who played so much of his career with the Eagles. So I wonder if a lot of that is almost like a subliminal Sproles thing. Jamir ran times that impressed the heck out of me. I not that I didn't know he was fast. I knew he was fast, but Jamir ran fast. Most of the time when I guess an Alabama player's 40 time, I'm going to guess that they're faster than they are. Most of the time with Gibbs, I'm like, I don't know, maybe high 4.4s. I won't be surprised if it's 4.52. Oh, no, he's out there running freaking 4.3s. Incredible time. Weighed 199. Also weighed more than I assumed he would. I would bet he played this past season around 185, like to me. But regardless, Gibbs is very likely to be the second running back selected. My opinion today still is I'm going to still say second round, just simply because the NFL doesn't take a lot of backs in the first round. He's more of a third down back and not an every down back like Bijan Robinson, who's going to be the first running back taken. I'm sure Bijan's going to go pretty high, actually, especially for a running back. So I'm assuming second round for Jamir, but he did put up numbers that would justify a first-round selection. So that's really exciting. He's a really good player. And frankly, let's be honest, last year, if you don't count Bryce, Gibbs was Alabama's best skill position player last season, the best running back, the best pass receiver, more of a playmaker than any of the outside receivers or tight ends. He was Alabama's best skill player, and that's saying quite a bit at a Nick Saban's Alabama. So we shouldn't be surprised when he does well in the NFL. I still think he's really ideally more of a third down back, or these teams that play fast and love to get their running backs running wide receiver routes, which is sort of new. And Gibbs is just ideal for that kind of role.
Yeah, I think he is too. I really feel like he can make a move in that first round. I really do. I mean, maybe I'm being a little too Bama-rific. Meanwhile, I should throw out some moderately bad news, I guess. One of the guys that apparently has not had a good combine is Brian Branch. I mean, this is somebody that everybody thought was going to be in the first round. I think he still may be in the first round, but I don't think some of his combine statistics and numbers were all that great. And in fact, according to ESPN, one scout said he was the most disappointing of all the guys that performed on his particular day.
That is a little surprising to me, but I think one thing, whether it was Brian's decision or the NFL's, that's a little off is he worked out with the cornerbacks and not the safeties. I don't know what difference that made in anyone's opinion, because to me, he was never going to be a cornerback, and a nickel corner isn't really a cornerback either, a nickel corner, which is what Brian Branch mostly played at Alabama. We call it the star position, but in the NFL, it's just nickel corner. It's really a safety spot. It's in the middle of the field. You have a lot of run game responsibilities. You're usually not covering a tall 4-4 receiver outside. You're usually a smaller guy or a slower guy that's lined up inside. I can't help but think that that's some of this is why did Brian Branch work out with the corners? It's like Gibbs working out with the receivers. I mean, if you just make Jamir Gibbs a receiver, now he's not special. Now he's just short. what makes Gibbs special is he's a running back with those receiver skills. That makes him unique and special and tough to defend. If you just make Jamir Gibbs a full-time wide receiver and put him outside with Jordan Addison, all of a sudden he's going to look probably fairly average, to be honest. So I think once you move Brian Branch and worked him out with the cornerbacks and compare him to the other corners, I can sort of get that, but you're not going to play him there. So I'm disappointed, and maybe that's bad thinking on my part. It really doesn't matter what position you're playing when you're running the 40 and doing skills tests and stuff like that. But I've seen Branch play. He's got 3 years of tape at Alabama. That's going to be used to evaluate more so than what happened in Indianapolis. I still believe Brian Branch is a first-round pick. Now, I won't be surprised if he goes in the mid-20s or late 20s. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me because, after all, he is a safety-type player, and safeties don't generally go really high in the draft. And I think maybe folks got a little too excited in the early projections of Branch, and they should have just said, well, he might be the first or second safety to go. That's usually somewhere in the 20s, honestly.
Yeah. And he really has been important for Alabama. And it's like the Bryce Young stuff to me a little bit. By the way, the Anthony Richardson stuff for Florida, their quarterback who, I mean, Jimmy, I know you're a big combine guy, and we're on a text thread, and you're like, man, he blew everybody away. Gosh, unbelievable. Can't believe it. I mean, the numbers are astounding. He's Cam Newton plus and whatever. And I'm not saying you're saying all that, but a lot of people are. And, I mean, every now and again, I think you have to stop and say, okay, now, can he play football? Because if you want to look at Bryce Young and say, look at his stats, I mean, if I stood next to Bryce Young, I don't mean this as a shot at Bryce Young. If I stood next to Bryce Young right now, maybe at age 50, you'd go, okay, which one of these guys plays quarterback? You might say me because I'm 6'5" and I hide my fatness very well. and I've got long arms. But Bryce Young is, in my opinion, the best player in Alabama history. And he's proven that time and time again. And for all the people that kill him for not doing this or not being that tall or whatever, I submit to you Exhibit A, the way he passed all over the best defense in the country in 2021 in the SEC title game, and was doing it in the national championship game without one of his best weapons, and then lost his other best weapon and was hitting people in the numbers, couldn't catch it because we were on our third and fourth guys. And so, meanwhile, Anthony Richardson, he's just not a great passer. Even in the combine stuff, he was missing guys. Now, if this were a track event, or if I needed a player at the combine to track down a gazelle, I would look for Anthony Richardson. I'd say, go get that gazelle if I had to eat it. I mean, he's an unbelievable freak of nature. But can he pass the football? And it feels like that should be a pretty serious criterion for playing quarterback. But, Jimmy, let's go ahead and take a break. Let me tell everybody about FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. Look, FanDuel is the absolute best. You know all about them. We've been bragging on them forever. They've been a fantastic sponsor. We appreciate them. And you got that no sweat first bet that we're going to talk about soon. If my live read ever comes up, I'm going to tell you all about FanDuel. You just wait and see. Because new customers get a first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. You can just go there, get some bonus bets back. All you get is bet, and if it doesn't win, you get bonus bets back. I mean, that's hard to beat right there, right? So don't miss a chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on, FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA and the NFL. And the NBA is hot and heavy right now. College basketball is hot and heavy right now. You want some of this action, go to FanDuel.com/locked-on, FanDuel.com/locked-on, FanDuel.com/locked-on. I just want to throw this out there too. I'm not a huge Cam Newton fan, obviously, but to compare Anthony Richardson to Cam Newton is so ludicrous to me. And I've seen it on Twitter, and usually when the Auburn guys have a conniption about something on Twitter, I'm kind of like, but I'm like, no, they have a point. I mean, you cannot like Cam Newton and still truly appreciate how good of a player he was at his unbelievable freakish stature. And you can also appreciate the freakishness of Anthony Richardson and understand he doesn't seem like he's that great of a quarterback.
Well, not yet. He's also really young and inexperienced. And frankly, I think even though he's going to go in the first round and he's going to go really high, I think he would have been so well served by playing another year of college football. Because as impressive as the combine numbers were impressive, he is a bigger, faster, stronger Cam. He's than all that stuff. It's true. He is much faster even. But here's another number. Anthony Richardson's QBR this past season was lower than Brady Cook's. Some people listening to this show don't even know who Brady Cook is. He's a starting quarterback at Missouri. Alabama didn't play Missouri, so maybe some didn't know that. But Brady Cook at Missouri, his QBR was not good, and Missouri went to the portal, and they're trying to find another guy. Even though Brady Cook started all last season, they're trying to find another guy because Brady just wasn't a good enough passer. Anthony Richardson's QBR was lower than Brady Cook's. So he wasn't extremely effective, and Florida underachieved. And I think that's a bad sign for the quarterback when the team wins fewer games than it should. That can't be good for the quarterback. So I see all that stuff. Also say on the other end, Luke, the reason he's going to go really high and what he did at the combine this weekend is a big part of that, is you could just pick out another quarterback that was at the thing. Let's say Aiden O'Connell from Purdue, who's a good player. He's a good player at Purdue, and he's going to be a 5th or 6th round pick in this draft. And he's the, straight out of Hollywood, 6'5", big arm, Tom Brady looking quarterback, right? Well, Aiden O'Connell's an NFL quarterback, so he's going to get drafted. But how good is he going to be? He's just an NFL guy. He's just a guy. Anthony Richardson has a chance. Now, maybe it's a small chance. But if Anthony Richardson pans out, he could be Mahomes. He could be Josh Allen. He's special. Now, he's got to pan out. And so far, it doesn't look like he will, to be honest, so far. But I'm just saying, I think that's why sometimes there is a gamble that you have to take. Because you could just take Aiden O'Connell. He can play in the NFL. But how's he going to help you not just win NFL games on Sundays, but how is he going to help you get to the playoffs, win in the playoffs, and go win a Super Bowl? I think Anthony Richardson has enormous upside. In the event he does start panning out, then the sky's the limit for him, and that's why he's going to go super high, like it or not.
Very quickly, I don't think we talked about it in the podcast yesterday, so let's talk a little bit about Alabama's draw for this SEC tournament. They play on Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to try my best to get up there in time for the game and meet my cheerins and go to that contest. We'll play the winner of Mississippi State and Florida. Unbelievably, Florida is the 8 seed. Mississippi State's the 9 seed. Florida has 0 chance to make the NCAA tournament. I think Mississippi State is in as of this moment, but they can't lose to Florida, I don't think. Then assuming I'm to win that game, they would play the winner of probably Tennessee. Right now, I might favor Missouri in that matchup.
Really?
And then they would go championship game. I love Alabama's bracket. I want it to be a little bit easier. We've played a tough enough schedule where I don't need us to play any tough games in the SEC tournament until the championship game.
No, that's right. The thing for me, and here's why Mississippi State might be a bad draw in this one sense. And I think Alabama's going to beat Mississippi State Friday. I'm not saying that they won't win the game, although it might be ugly, because Mississippi State can do that to you. They're very, very good defensively. That state team has a difficulty scoring, but they're elite defensively. And Alabama really needs to use the SEC tournament as a place to get hot again. They need to find their shot. That to me is almost, hey, I'll take not winning the SEC tournament, because that's what they need to do going into the NCAA tournament. Is they need to find their shot again. I don't know if Mississippi State's the right team to do that in the sense that they're so elite defensively. I'm not sure there's a better team in the whole league, honestly, on that side of the ball than Mississippi State. So in that sense, it's a challenge. But, hey, if you get to the quarters and Alabama gets a double bye into the quarters, you get to the quarters in the SEC, so you're playing a top 8 SEC team, they're going to be good. They're going to be good. Doesn't matter who you play. Even Florida, they're a good team. Now, Alabama's a number 1 seed playing an 8 or a 9. You're going to be favored to win by several points, and I believe Alabama's going to do that. It'd be a heck of a challenge Saturday, whether it's Missouri or Tennessee. I hope it's Tennessee myself, and I know it's not the same Tennessee team we played in Knoxville because Ziegler's out for the year now, but the idea, as soon as that Tennessee moment it was over, my first thought was I would love to play that team in the SEC tournament away from Knoxville on a neutral floor and see what happens. I'm sure now Tennessee will say, oh, we don't have Ziegler this time, and I get it. I get it. They're not the same team, but regardless, Tennessee'd still be good without Ziegler. You could take out any one player from Alabama, and I still think Alabama's good.
All right, buddy, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys a ton, and we'll be back tomorrow with more Locked On Bama. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.